Welcome back to AFTV, everyone. It's time for the Player of the Month award. September, we're looking back at the fixtures. We're going to nominate 4 players for our Player of the Month. We'll pick a player each, but of course you can go to the AFTV Plus app and vote on the poll that is in the app to give us your Player of the Month. Of course, if you don't agree with the 4 we put up, let us know in the comment section below as well. Turkish, we were in the office debating the 4, but actually we thought let's leave it for on the show because you've actually pulled together a lot of information, research and all that to help us quite meticulously put together who the 4 candidates should be.
Yeah, I mean, I've looked at the fixtures in September, all competitions. I've looked at goals, assists, man of the matches from Sky Sports only, because I know every media outlet out there does their own player ratings and man of the matches, but I've just looked at the Sky Sports ones. And I've got them right here. So starting with the fixtures, obviously the month started with that nice 3-1 win against United. And
people will forget that because the international break came straight after that, the United just snuck into September.
Falls into September, and that's good for us because it was a big win. Obviously, Rice and Jesus getting the goals at the end of the 90 minutes in injury time, picking up that 3-1 win. Then we moved on to Everton after the international break, 1-0 away win, very resolute. In some fans' opinions, including yourself, I think one of our best performances all around this season.
Certainly the one that gave me the most confidence. You can go to Goodison Park, and I know they aren't on good form, Everton, but go there, control a game for 90 minutes like that, had plenty of chances to get a second or third, it never happened. But for me, the most convincing of our performances so far.
And Raya's debut.
And Raya's debut, yeah, you're right.
But we'll mention him again in a sec because we move on to the Champions League, our return, long-awaited return at the Emirates against PSV. Great to hear the Champions League music and a great result and a great performance. Probably our most fluid performance of the season with Jesus up top.
Yeah, definitely. I felt that was Arsenal letting go of the handbrake and actually just saying, let's just blow away a team because we can, and they did.
Yeah, and then we move on to the most frustrating result of the lot, in my opinion, and that is the Emirates fixture against Tottenham. Yeah, 2-2 draw.
Yeah, and it's one that when you take all of September's results, I know you're going to list a couple more there, that Tottenham one, it's because it's Tottenham it hurts. If it were Team A that had 5 wins in 7 and was scoring a load of goals and had this new manager and they were I think we'd say, you know what, consider we're nowhere near our best. It's nowhere near a terrible result. It's just that it's Tottenham and we know what we did to them last year and it feels that they've caught up to us more than we've pulled away and that's frustrating.
And to be honest, you compare it to the 2-2 draw against Fulham at the Emirates and the Tottenham one hurts a lot more because it's Tottenham. I don't think people, some people don't understand the intense rivalry that we have, especially growing up in North London, having Tottenham fans as friends or family members. Dropping those points was unacceptable, but we did bounce back, and that was in the Carabao Cup away, rotated side, but Nelson got the goal and we won 1-0.
I thought that was a very underrated win.
So did I.
Because easy to go, our 3rd round Carabao Cup, whatever. Brentford went full strength, as far as not that I've watched every Brentford game, but that looked at full strength. Brentford team to me. The fact that we could rotate, and then we kind of did the opposite of what we've been doing. Obviously we lost that game, and this is an October game against Lens, where we went full strength, and we talk about how we struggled in Europe. Last year we struggled in Europe, but because we were rotating. Actually, the rotated team went out and did really well against a first-choice Brentford side, a place that we have found really difficult. Because we won 3-0 last year, but look at the amount of clubs that have dropped points. City lost there last year, Liverpool in a 3-3 draw, Tottenham have dropped points there. So to come and get a 1-0 win against their first team in a cup game where it's now or never happens on that night, I was really happy with that.
Yeah, so was I. I'm with you. I think that win was underrated, especially when you see the rotated team and what rotated Arsenal teams in the last couple of years have produced in the League Cup, FA Cup or Europa League. And then we ended the month with probably our best performance of the season in the Premier League for sure, and our biggest result in the Premier League, and that was a 4-0 away win against Bournemouth, where Kai Havertz was given a gift along the way to get off the mark for Arsenal.
And of course that puts him in our 4 for the Player of the Month. No, look, it was... there's 2 ways to look at it. Arsenal scored 4 goals, total control, and looked very comfortable, and that's great. That's what champions do. At the same time, you could say, first goal, it's kind of trickled towards Saka. Not to say that there's not some good from Ødegaard in the build-up, but then 2 penalties and then a goal from a set piece. So was it a 4-0 performance? It's a difficult one. I think probably yes, but I'm just saying if you want to be cynical, you can look at it in that way, which is why I just put a little bit more stock in the Everton win, but both very good.
Yeah, I'm with you, and that rounds up the results for September. So before we move on to the players individually, just looking overall, that's 4 clean sheets out of 6 games.
Not bad.
3 of those was Raya, 1 of those was Ramsdale against Brentford.
Yeah.
And we move on to the individual accolades now. Like I said, man of the matches I've taken from Sky Sports, and over all of those games, all over those wins, because the man of the match for the Tottenham game was given to Son. The games we won, Martin Odegaard picked up 2 man of the match awards, Declan Rice, Leandro Trossard and Reece Nelson all picked up 1 apiece.
Okay, fair enough. Odegaard getting 2 sounds about right.
Yeah, well, to be honest, it could have been him or Declan Rice, I think.
Yeah,
I think a couple of those games it was touch and go for who to give it to. But when we move on to the goals and assists, we'll start with goals. Martin Odegaard leads the race along with Bukayo Saka, 3 goals in September, followed by Gabriel Jesus and Leandro Trossard with 2 apiece. And then we have Reece Nelson, Declan Rice, Kai Havertz and Ben White all with 1.
Fair enough. You got the information, people. So start thinking as we go through the rest of this video and we pull together our 4. Let us know who you think should be in contention. There are names there that won't be coming up because things like, they're not going to be amongst the goals and assists, but you mentioned 3 clean sheets and I think it's important we understand who's been at the crux of that. David Raya came in. I don't think has blown us away, but has been, I thought against PSV, distribution fantastic. Thought against Everton, commanding his box, very, very composed. I thought in the Bournemouth away win, had nothing to do. But then sometimes when a keeper has nothing to do, it's because they're doing everything so well and so efficiently. And I know that I'm saying all this, trying to forget Lons, which happened in October. In September, we saw David Raya coming off his line often to claim crosses that maybe Ramsdale might, but it just he always looked very proactive with it. But otherwise, the 2 in front, Saliba and Gabriel, have been extremely solid this month. Yeah,
I mean, look, the clean sheets came against Everton, PSV and Bournemouth for Raya.
Yeah.
I don't think in any of the games he was really tested. The
No,
game
I
he was
agree.
tested the most, and his best save comes from that game against Tottenham at the Emirates.
That's true.
It just happens to be that game is the most frustrating of the lot in September. So as much as Raya has done well in September, and this is with Lons out of the mind at the moment, because we'll talk about that at the end of October, moving into November.
It's hard to forget though. It's hard to know what a player goes on to do.
It is. But I wouldn't even without that mistake against Lons, I wouldn't even put him in as a candidate for Player of the Month.
I agree. So who? Because I feel okay. Let's go to the obvious ones. Put a player forward. Who for you is like they've got to be in there? That 4.
Odegaard's got to be in there. Most man of the matches and joint most goals. Picked up an assist too, I believe. Yeah, he's got an assist to his name. So 3 goals, an assist, and 2 man of the match performances.
Yeah.
I think without a doubt he's in there.
Yeah, outstanding month.
How about
The one I'm really I'm not forcing him, but I'm like, forget goals and assists and all that, but I'm just putting them in there as Declan Rice. I mean, you can look at the man of the match performance against Man United, where I felt he ran the show. I just think, in the way like Lionel Messi keeps winning Ballon d'Ors and everyone goes, yeah, but look at all this player, look at that player did that. Yeah, but Lionel Messi is the best player in the world all those years, therefore he wins the Ballon d'Or. Declan Rice is, or has been in my opinion, our best player in terms of everything, in terms of contribute defensively, going forward, and constantly hitting a certain level. He's never re-dipped. Odegaard dipped against Tottenham. And I love him and he's had a great month, but he dipped massively against Tottenham. Saka, fantastic output, but I don't think he's been near his best. Rice, for me, he hasn't dipped below a 7 out of 10 in any of these games, and more often than not played nearer an 8 or 9. So I've got to get Declan Rice in there for me.
I completely agree. I think he's, without a doubt, the next one in there, if not the first one in there. But I think Odegaard and Rice both deserve their mentions for sure. And then it gets a bit more difficult.
Yeah.
People might argue that it's not difficult because Saka has 3 goals and 3 assists in September, and that's without taking into account the Romero on goal, where you could argue it's an assist. But I think Bukayo Saka, even not in form, still produces and still deserves to be in there with a mention.
Yeah, I agree. I just think the cross to the back post to Rice, that's not just lump it in the area, that's clearly very calculated, and he executed it late in the game brilliantly. I think I don't know, he's not been at his best, but the opener against Bournemouth, you know, he gets that goal. Playing through injury, I've had my rant about Saka playing through injury, but the flip side of that is fair play to it. Injured, he keeps
going.
Fair play to him. He keeps coming out and wanting to play, and like that's, Yeah, credit there. I think Saka does nick a place in there.
So do I.
Yeah.
So do I. Like I said, it's a drop off from Odegaard and Rice. Rice in particular, but I think Saka does deserve his name to be in there.
The fourth I'm going to put in
Has to be defensive.
Yeah, and I give it to William Saliba.
Okay, fair.
And I can hear the comments already. Gabriel's so underrated. I agree. But Saliba, I felt, as at times had to do a lot of like solo defending. PSV, where we were a bit more expansive. Tottenham, where we weren't quite as controlled. And he just sweeps up so well, whilst also being incredibly composed in possession, in tight spaces, is happy to run into them and still maintain possession of the ball, keep Arsenal moving. In fact, open passing lanes for us. I just think he's sublime. Like I think he's really, really good. Gabriel, also brilliant. And this isn't just, I'm not just Saliba fanboying. Last season, I was one of the few saying, I think Gabriel's maybe been better than Saliba at times, certainly that second half of the season. But Saliba this month, I think, has been a real rock.
Yeah, I agree. He's the cream of the crop for me defensively, and that's not to disregard others, because I think Gabriel, he's been good.
Yep.
I think Ben White hasn't lived up to the standards he set last season, but he's been good. I think Zinchenko's come in and also been good, and Tomiyasu, when we've seen him, in my opinion, has been good. But I think Saliba, on the ball and off the ball, he's just something else. There's something, you know, when people say a Rolls Royce of a player, he already comes across as a Rolls Royce type player at this young age.
Yeah, I agree.
So he's definitely in with a shout.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to put in one last name. Obviously, we've got our four there. So Saliba, Odegaard, Rice and Saka. I'll just put one honourable mention. It's actually two honourable mentions. But players, I think because of circumstances, they're making into that four is affected. Leandro Trossard because of injury.
Yep.
I think coming against Everton, massive impact. The goal against PSV, but then ultimately misses Brentford, misses Bournemouth, and I think misses Tottenham. So I felt like Trossard was moving towards, and he was playing in a way that would have had him in contention for this. Of course, didn't even come on against Man United. So for that reason alone, he actually ends up not even getting anywhere near it. But I did feel when we saw Trossard, he was performing to a very high level. The other one is Gabi Jesus, who comes on and makes a difference against Man United, gets the third goal. Fantastic against PSV. Came on against Everton and did absolutely fine as well. Good against Bournemouth from the left. Against Tottenham, again out on the left-hand side, not his favourite position. Looked one of our better players, but missed the big chance. So he just misses out, because I don't think he ever quite overall, taking everything into account, got to where the other four did. But Jesus had really good moments in the month.
I think I agree, especially with Trossard, 2 goals and an assist in the limited game time he did have. And same with Jesus, he's been played pretty much out of position. He wants to be the striker. And when he started striker against PSV, he got a nice goal out of it. And again, we're going to mention Lons. It's in October, so we're going to classify the Lons game in the October player of the month. But he starts up top and he gets a goal. So
very true.
I think Jesus and Trossard deserve mentions.
Okay, you got the 4 there. Those will be the 4 that you see on the AFTV Plus app. Download the app on iOS devices or Android. It's incredibly easy to do and free. Crucially, it's also your route to Fan Zone, so you can chat to us when we are live on Fan Zone, live on the show, and give us your thoughts on all things Arsenal news related or post-match reaction as well. Let's pick our player of the month, and of course, let us know in the comments what yours would be. Who is yours? Of the 4, we've covered it in really good detail. Who is your number 1 at the top of the pile?
For me, it's an easy choice, and it's Declan Rice.
Okay,
consistency.
interesting.
His consistency has been key, and I don't look at him in any game and say, you let me down in this one. Whereas I look at the Tottenham game, and after that yellow card that Odegaard received, listen, before the yellow card, in my opinion, he was the best player on the pitch. He was pressing, he was leading, he was working his socks off. After that yellow, he was one of the worst on the pitch, especially for someone that we look to create, we look to control, we look to open up defences. So that swings it for me. I think Rice has been consistent throughout, 7s, 8s bare minimum.
You're getting me thinking, because I made the pitch for Rice, but I'm going to give to Odegaard personally, and the reason I do is because if Rice is always here, and in the Tottenham game Odegaard went down here, I still think Odegaard though. The PSV goal, but he was just brilliant in that game. Everything was running through him. The Everton game gets a shout out from Gary Neville and saying, you know, when you look at players like David Silva and De Bruyne, that's how Odegaard makes him feel. When you look at the goal that pulls us straight back into the United game at 1-0 down, we're not playing well, but he drags us back with another big moment. Bournemouth, it's his fantastic ball to the back post that opens the scoring for us. I just think, though the Tottenham game was bad, and because it's Tottenham, you get extra crosses on the score
Yeah.
sheet. You know, he'd started that game well in the yellow card, and I feel like one moment away from what was, because you're right,
Looking
you're
like it.
convincing me, but I would still edge it to Ødegaard because very efficient in the final third for Arsenal.
You've done
And,
well trying to convince me too, because Odegaard did get us
Yeah.
back into the game against
Yeah.
United. Albeit Declan Rice got the big winner or
Yeah.
the decisive goal.
And if I could just add one really quick thing, he's not the tallest and he's not some big hulk of a box-to-box midfielder, but what he is when away from home like Brentford, like Everton, where we needed to just get through at the end of the game, we did it at Palace as well, that was a month before. He was able to take a first touch in the Everton game and the ball is kind of dropping from a height and he just took a touch, we got on the ball and for a couple of minutes we just stayed in the Everton half, and against Brentford he came on and just kept the ball moving and just added some composure on the ball and gave Arsenal a way to just play out the trouble that they were facing and the suffocation that they were getting from Brentford. And he's proving a real outlet out of possession for us as well. So Ødegaard for me, Rice for you unless you change your mind?
Rice for me,
Rice
and I
still gets
remember how much the midfields felt the impact of losing him at half time against Tottenham.
Another great
So that
point.
edges it.
Yeah, you know what? It's a fascinating one. I can't wait to see the votes in the polls. Go check them out on the AFTV Plus app, as mentioned, and of course, let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button. Go check out all the other content. There's a tactical insight on the Lons game. I know we lost. Going to be hard to watch a kind of what happened tactically. But I think some really interesting insight on that and where things went wrong for Arsenal. But crucially, I look ahead as to what we should do for Man City. And of course, there is a super fan debate. I'm not going to spoil who's on it, but it's a big one.
Yeah.
Good luck hosting Turkish. And plenty of other content coming out in the run-up to the big Man City game on Sunday. Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell button. You'll be notified when we've uploaded a video to the channel. And we'll see you all very soon later this week.